Hi everyone, I hope you're having a good day so far. I want to talk to you about interviewing skills in this video. Most of us need to work. Without work, there's no money, and without money, there's no food, there's no shelter, there's no being able to look after families. For a lot of people, that means they need to have a job. And in order to get a job, you need to be very good at interviewing. So interviewing skills are really important, and you want to be good at doing interviews. There are lots and lots of tips and pointers all over the place on how to give a good interview. In this video, I'm going to just cover a few of them. The first thing to understand is that the way you do the job hunt is the way prospective employers and recruiters think you will do the job. So if you are sloppy on the job hunt, if your CV is full of errors, if you pitch late for an interview, if you yawn, if you slouch, if you're not prepared for an interview, that is how people are going to think you will be on the job. So you are not likely to get the job. For an interview, please prepare and practice. In these days, when there are hundreds of applications for each job that exists, you need to be polished. It is going to help you get that job. Now, mostly interviews are about questions and then answers and discussions around the questions that the interviewers or the interviewing panel ask you. So if you know you are going to do an interview, the first thing you need to do is to prepare questions and prepare answers. So start off by making a list of questions, and I want you to start by writing them down. Don't keep it in your head, actually write them down. So think of all the questions you have been asked in interviews and write them down. Then you can ask people you know, what sort of questions have they been asked in interviews? And you can write them down too. And if you want to, you can even go onto the internet, because there are lots and lots of possible questions listed there as well. Make a list of questions, and then you are going to write down your answers. I want you to write down the answers. Once again, don't do it in your head. Write down the answers, because you are going to go through your answers with other people. So write down your answers and then get some feedback from other people. The point about the answers to the questions is you obviously need to be truthful. Don't ever lie. Don't ever pretend you have skills, experience, or qualifications you don't have. South Africa is quite small. Even Johannesburg is quite small. People know one another, and if you lie, they're going to find out. It will come out. So you want truthful answers, but you also want to position yourself in the best possible way. So you're going to write down the questions and you're going to write down the answers. When I work with clients, preparing them for interviews, one of the questions I ask them to prepare an answer to is, why should we give you this job? Sometimes the question may be phrased as, out of all the other applicants for this position, why should you get the job? Even if you do not get asked this question, the answer to that question is the whole theme of the interview. The whole purpose of the interview is to determine if you are the best person for that job. So throughout the questions, throughout the discussion, throughout your answers while you're in an interview, that is what is in the back of everybody's minds. Are you the best person for the job? Once you've prepared your questions and answers, please practice them. Practice them as if it were an actual dress rehearsal. Get somebody you know to ask you questions, to act as if they were the interviewer. And then you can practice answering the questions. If you are going to be doing a virtual interview, for example, Skype or Zoom, please also practice using those platforms. It is quite different being interviewed and talking on a screen than it is a face-to-face interview. There are some other things as well. If your interview is virtual, you need to make sure the lighting is correct. You need to make sure the angle is good. You need to make sure the technology works. It is possible to give a fantastic interview and wonderful answers to the questions in a virtual interview, but all the interviewers remember is that the lighting was terrible, they couldn't see you, the technology was falling apart, and so forth. So please practice that. You get one chance at an interview. You want to really be good at it. Now, one of the things practicing in an interview does is it makes you more confident. And confidence is extremely important in an interview. If you are not confident, please work on your confidence and self-belief. I have a few recruitment agencies who actually send people to me for work on their confidence before they go for an interview. If you are not confident, there is no way the interviewer is going to know what you're capable of doing and whether you're right for the job. Think about it. In an interview, you are selling yourself. As any salesperson will tell you, if you are selling a product and service, if you don't believe in it, you will never get somebody else to buy it. So in an interview, you need to have the confidence and belief that you are the right person for the job. You need to believe in yourself. Not arrogance. Arrogance and brashness is going to be a big turnoff, and it's quite easy to see. What you are going to do is you're going to be quietly confident. You're going to talk with a sense of, I know myself, I know what I can do, and I know I would be good at this job. Something that is related to confidence also is that a lot of people tell me when they go into an interview, they feel judged. And what they often don't say, but what they mean is that I feel judged and I feel wanting. I feel the interviewers are thinking, oh, she's not good enough, or I don't come up to scratch or whatever. Okay, when you go into an interview, the chances are very good the interviewers know nothing about you. They may know what's in your CV, and that is it. And that's not very much, considering how much information there is to know about you. So try and not feel like you are being judged. The interviewers don't know you. They're waiting for you to tell them who you are. The opinion they form of you will depend on how that interview goes. It will depend on what you tell them about yourself. It will depend on how you conduct yourself. It will also depend on how well prepared you are and how well you answer in that interview. So try and not feel judged when you walk into an interview. They're not judging you. They're waiting for information. They're waiting to see who you are and what you're all about, and whether you would be good in their company and for this particular position. Now, it may so happen that you have an interviewer or you have an interviewing panel and you know this person. You may have worked for them before. You may know them socially. The chances are very good that if somebody on the interviewing panel or an interviewer knows you, they think favorably of you. Interviews are very time-consuming and very expensive. If you consider that perhaps it takes 2 hours of somebody's time to interview you, just you, an hour for the interview, and then let's say an hour to read the CV, to prep the questions, and then afterwards to discuss the outcome of the interview and for them to pool their opinions and their views. And let's say that it's a panel interview and we're looking at maybe 4 to 5 people. 4 to 5 people, usually at a managerial level, 2 hours each. The cost of your interview to that company is around 10,000 to 20,000 Rand. You are not going to be sitting in that interview unless they already view you quite favorably. If you have reached the point of the interview stage, they already view you quite favorably. So remember that when you walk into an interview. You may sometimes, because this does happen, it happens also in the workplace, you walk into the interview room and one particular interviewer looks at you and there's something about the shape of your face or your hair that reminds him of his mean Aunt Mabel. And so at an unconscious, irrational level, he takes an instant dislike to you. Okay, that happens. It shouldn't happen too frequently, but it does happen. And there's not a huge amount you can actually do about it, because most probably this interviewer won't even admit that that's happened. But I want you to remember, for the most part, if you walk into an interview, they already see you favorably. They are not sitting there and judging you negatively. They don't know who you are. It's up to you to show them who you are. Now, sometimes you can be sitting in an interview and the interview's going well, and you start moving towards the interview and you realize, oh heck, they haven't asked me this particular question, or I haven't had an opportunity to mention a project I worked on, a project that gave me the exact skills and experience that would make me perfect for this job. If it hasn't been discussed yet, if it has not come up in the interview yet, raise it. You don't have to keep quiet about something that is quite important. You can sit there and you can say, you know what, I'd just like to just raise this point. You can say something like, I haven't mentioned so far, but I worked on this project, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So if you have experience, skills, qualification, abilities that you know would make you really good for the job, and it has not yet come up in the interview, please raise it. It is in the interests of you and the interviewers that they understand as much about you as possible, so that they can make the best possible choice of candidate for the job. After you have finished the interview, the next day you're going to send a thank you message. Manners, politeness, courtesy never goes out of fashion. There are a few people who have actually gotten a job because the candidates were so similar that the person who sent the thank you actually stood out. There's another advantage of sending a thank you email, and that is, should you get out of the interview and you're driving home and you realize, whoa, I've forgot something that's really important, you can mention it. Do not write an essay, please. Just say, I forgot to mention this, and put that point in. And make sure, though, that it's relevant for the job. The other thing you can do in your thank you email is you can remind them if you would like the job. Now, this might sound very strange, because why would you be in an interview if you didn't want the job? I have sat after interviews with interviewing panels, and the interviewers have discussed a particular candidate, and they've gone, well, the interview went very well, and they thought this person was great. But they didn't seem very interested in the job. If you are interested in the job and you want the job, say so. Okay, don't do it in a desperate way. I mean, if you get on your knees and you grab the interviewers by the ankles and you sort of beg for the job, no, that's very off-putting. Don't do that. That's just going to turn people off. But if you want the job, say so. Companies would rather hire somebody who wants the job, who's always wanted to work for this company, who's always wanted to do this kind of a job, than somebody who just wants any old job. If this is a job that you really want, you are more likely to be committed. You are likely to do a better job. You are likely to stay longer, and you're likely to fit better into the workplace. So if you want the job, say so. Once again, in a nice, quiet, confident fashion. If you have any interviews this week, I wish you all the best.